Okay, I'm using another streaming platform today that I haven't used in a long time, but which I just upgraded to last month so I could stream on both this and StreamTard for for PA's nature video, which I will set up after this afternoon. Reset it up. I've got two PCs. One's a Mac and one's not. So I can run Pro's stream on my non-Mac using StreamYard, and I can do this on Restream. And Restream does support Ukraine. It was developed by Ukrainians, and I like to give them that little bit extra support. Anyhow, Bernie is speaking, I forget where, on his and the oligarchy tour. TV2's got him live. I guess a lot of folks are over there watching because it really just started, I think, a few minutes ago. Let's see. Fight the oligarchy rally in Chicago, right on. Yeah, Chicago's going to be hit next by the stormtroopers. Gestapo. Who's speaking? Hey, Michael. How you doing?
I need backup in that House of Representatives, and I think we're going to have that in Robert Peters. Woo! Good evening, Chicago. Buenas noches. Welcome to Senator Sanders' Fight Oligarchy Tour here in the best city in the country, Chicago. Adelia Catalina Ramirez, your congresista, proudly representing the mighty 3rd Congressional District. And the most important thing for you to know about me, it's not my title, is that I'm a proud daughter of Guatemalan immigrants, Luis and Maria Ramirez. I am a citizen by birthright, an unapologetic defender of our immigrant communities, an unwavering champion of shared humanity and human rights, and a fighter for peace in a country obsessed with war. A member of Congress who comes from a working class family, fighting for my working class neighbors, demanding that Trump, his billionaire bosses, and all of the oligarchs profiting off the suffering of our communities get their hands off our health care, our housing, our land, our climate, our elections, our neighbors, and our futures. And Chicago, not backing down. Let me say from this fight and this moment, because we all must be clear about where we
We're at
stand when there's
31.
fascists in the White House and when our democracy is
31,
on the line.
32.
For me, everything the Trump
I don't know if
administration and their
it's
billionaire
that hot,
bosses
though.
are doing, cutting
Doesn't
services
feel like it.
Americans rely on, perpetrating mass deportations, attacking workers and their rights, persecuting human rights defenders, deploying the National Guard to democratic cities, undermining our civil rights, and yes, the genocide of the Palestinian people is all connected. And I know that the billionaire bosses, they want our resources, don't they? They want our land, they want our freedoms, they want our lives to secure their profit and advance their imperialistic, authoritarian agendas across the world. They are willing to rob us blind, leave us starving, displaced, detained, deported, and dead to enrich themselves. The wealthiest 10% in this nation are consolidating their power. They're stockpiling their wealth. They're suppressing dissent, and they're trying to destroy our democracy, all while they try to convince you that your immigrant neighbors are your enemy. Well, they're wrong, aren't they? You see, Trump promised a new golden age for America. Not for working people. I think you're right when you just said BS there. But one ushered by an oligarch for oligarchs. And I don't have to tell you how dangerous, painful, scary times these are. You're living through them. And if we're being honest with each other and ourselves, we've been living through this for a very long time. Because we know that the hard times started way before the November 2024 election. Working families, black and brown communities, we've seen the cracks in the systems, and we know that they have never worked for us. We've heard detached politicians and billionaires brag to us about the American dream. Work hard, keep working, and you will achieve it. But you have worked 2 jobs, 3 jobs, and you're still living paycheck to paycheck with no hope of a dignified retirement. And that is not right. You still... You're still wondering, how the hell will I be able to put that down payment on that small house and buy groceries? You're counting your pennies daily and trying to make the impossible decision between paying your ever-rising rent, buying your prescription drugs, or finally getting that medical test you've been putting off. You too are crushed by the medical debt from that visit to the emergency room years ago, or by the student loan you took out when you were 17 years old with the hope of a better future. You spend thousands of dollars in fees, in lawyers, hoping that one day you will be out of the shadows. And still, you cannot become a United States citizen. You have worked hard for the American dream, and yet you still feel like you don't achieve it. Do you think that's right? Hell no. Say it with me. Hell no.
Hell no.
But that is why we are clear that in times such as this, we have to build something better. And I know you're tired, but it is times such as this that demand so much of us.
It's a jacket.
They require us to be brave, to resist being overwhelmed, and to do everything in our power to stand up and fight back. And it's why we're here tonight. Is that right?
I like it.
Stand up and fight back. Whether that's standing up to ICE and their unlawful, unaccountable, unconstitutional terror force, stand up and fight back against illegal and unconstitutional executive orders that attempt to defund education, public radio, and FEMA, whether that's calling out Noam and Homan and Miller and Trump and all of those that are profiting off of family separation, whether it's blocking the bombs provided by warmongers like Trump and used by Netanyahu to carry out his genocidal campaign, whether it's demanding the resources that belong to us, or whether it's taking our democracy back from the billionaires and foreign interests trying to buy it, because our democracy is not for sale.
I just went over the top and got tired on the stream.
And folks, I know what's at stake at this moment.
Lando?
And I'm going to keep fighting even on the days
Sorry,
when
who's
it's
that?
hard.
Oh,
And let me tell you, there's some really hard
Marvel
days.
hero, I don't
And
know.
some days will feel even harder. There are days when my safety and that of my family is threatened. When white nationalists question my commitment to you, my community, for upholding the multiracial, multicultural identities that make our nation beautiful. There are days when Trump and his allies demonize, dehumanize, and threaten our communities, and when unaccountable billionaires and their super PACs threaten to silence us. The working class people who are unwilling to stay silent in the face of injustice. There are hard days. And on those days, it can be really hard to believe that a more just, loving, and compassionate world is possible. But let me be very clear with you today. I do believe a different future is possible, and I believe it because of you. Shout out to my alderwoman, I see her, Jess Fuentes. I believe it because of champions like Senator Bernie Sanders, who continue to unapologetically hold the line against the interests of billionaires, against the oligarchy. I believe in us because of the brave progressive leaders that you see here, elected, not elected, building movement here, so many of them right here, including Senator Karina Villa. We are building a community that co-governs in favor of democracy because of us. Because there are literally millions of us, from California to Iowa to Nevada to Chicago and yes, Texas, trying to build a world where we can proudly pass on to future generations. It is us together that sustains my hope.
Backfire on them spectacularly.
And I am hopeful because every day I see us standing up to this tyrannical government. I see you protecting our neighbors, practicing solidarity, rejecting a status quo that isn't working for working people, refusing to let the rich and powerful pit us against each other, building progressive power in our communities, and demanding every single damn thing working people deserve to thrive.
Yes, we demand it.
So let me close by saying this. In Spanish, I know some folks don't like when I speak Spanish and may not love my bilingualism, but I don't give a damn. In Spanish, hope is translated as esperanza, and esperanza comes from the root word esperar, or to wait. We wait anxiously, eagerly, hungrily, and hope for a new day to dawn, for the arc of the universe to bend further towards justice, for collective liberation, and for freedom, for an America that works for working people. And I am here to remind you that we are the ones that we have been waiting for. Let our hopeful yearning for a different and better future and our righteous anger and the injustices we see lead us to action. May it lead us to organize, to fight back, to stand firm, to resist, and to make sure that Donald, Elon, Jeff, and all of those billionaires pay their fair share.
I want them to pay an unfair price.
And once we get them to pay their fair share, let's get their money out of our elections. Let's get their money out of the White House. And get their hands out of working people's pockets and off our services. Yes, Social Security and Medicaid included. So that we win an increase in the minimum wage and we get to a living wage. Affordable housing for all, Medicare for all, Green New Deal, unions for all, comprehensive immigration reform, and that's just the beginning. Because I believe in a more just, loving, and compassionate world, and I know it's possible because I believe in us. in our movement and what we can do when we stay together. So if you're not yet part of a progressive project here in Chicago, I encourage you to join us. There are tables of organizations outside. There are folks all over here. There are folks from my team. Sign up, organize, let's stay ready. So let us be hope where there's despair. Let us be light in dark places. Let us be love where there is hate. Let's fight like heaven and hell for each other and for a future we're proud on to pass to our children. Let's take on the oligarchs and build with and for the people. And so, what better way to do that than to welcome to Chicago and to this stage someone who has taken on the oligarchs his entire life, someone who has fought for working people his entire career, whether it's at a city hall or the halls of Congress. He has spoken truth to power even when he's had to do it alone. Help me loudly welcome to the stage the one, the only, Senator Bernie Sanders!
TV2 must be blocking the audio so he doesn't get a copyright.
Thank you, Chicago!
Sniper! The traitor! Up over there, did you?
Thank you. Thank you. Let me thank Tim Kinsella for the music. Let me thank Fruitbacks and Whitney for their music. Let me thank Arturo Landa with the Teamsters.
Oh, that's a tremendous.
Let me thank Dr. Matt Mahoney, a great young doctor. Let me thank State Senator Robert Peters, your next member of Congress. And let me thank Congresswoman Delia Ramirez for being one of the strong progressive voices in the U.S. Congress. The truth, thank you. The truth is, politics is not complicated. What politics is about is trying to understand where we are today, how we got to where we are, and maybe most importantly, where we want to go in the future. Now, you may think that that's a pretty simple proposition. Well, where are we today? What's the problem? We all know where we are. Well, we don't. Where do we want to go in the future? Are we really discussing that? So I want to start off with a proposition, and I'm going to say it over and over again. We are the wealthiest country in the history of the world. There is no excuse why every man, woman, and child in this country is not enjoying a decent standard of living. Period. And everybody in America has got to understand it. No excuse for 800,000 Americans sleeping out on the street, or so many of us not having quality health care. No excuse at all. So what is going on in America today? Well, what the media doesn't talk about very often, and what you almost never hear in the halls of Congress, is the reality that today you are living in a nation where a handful of incredibly wealthy people, multi-billionaires, have enormous power and control over our economy, over our media, over our political system, and we are gathered here today to say that is going to change. Today in America, we have more income and wealth inequality than we've ever had in the history of this country. You all got that? Never been more unequal, not in the 1920s, not in the 1860s, than it is today. Today, and again, one of the things the media does, and what the establishment does, and the whole culture, not a conspiracy, it just happens, is they kind of tell us what we should be upset about, what we should be outraged about. If some kid with a gun goes into a 7-Eleven, we're supposed to be outraged. We are. That's a crime. But somehow we are not outraged when so few have so much and so many have so little. Well, I think we should be outraged at that. In America today, if you can believe it, one person, our good friend Mr. Musk, you are familiar with Mr. Musk. One man owns more wealth than the bottom 52%
Just had to pay out
of American households.
in wages or something to its employees.
Can you believe that? I mean, it is to me, now you don't hear that discussed very much, right? I think I'm one of the few people who talk about it. So in the richest country on earth, it doesn't matter how rich we are because of this massive inequality. One guy, more wealth than the bottom 52%, the top 1%, more wealth than the bottom 93%. CEOs today are making 350 times more than the average worker. Today in America, you have more concentration of economic ownership in sector after sector, whether it's media, financial services, agriculture, transportation, you name it. A handful of giant corporations control what is produced and what you pay for those products. But what the economy is not just income and wealth inequality, where the richest people have never had it so good. It's not just concentration of ownership. We are also looking at 6 major media conglomerates that own and control what you see, hear, and read. Do you ever wonder why some of the most important issues facing working people never get discussed? Well, that's kind of why. Do you ever ask yourself, how come we don't hear what other countries around the world are doing in terms of healthcare or education? That is kind of why. So you've got a handful of billionaires controlling the economy, and they control the media. But that's not enough. They also now control our political system. So let us be clear. And that is especially since this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision. You have a political system now where billionaires can spend as much money as they want to elect their candidates or defeat candidates who stand with the working class. This is how the system works. Elon Musk, our friend again, contributed $270 million to elect Donald Trump president.
TV2 stream to come here.
And his reward, these guys don't make an investment without asking for something in return. They don't make these donations out of the goodness of their heart. And what he got was the ability to run the United States government for 3 or 4 months and to exercise his extreme right-wing ideology. So what Mr. Musk was able to do at a time when Social Security Administration is understaffed. Seniors are having trouble getting information about their benefits. 7,000 Social Security employees were fired. At a time when we are not adequately staffing the Veterans Administration so that the men and women who put their lives on the line to defend us get the health care and benefits they deserve. Musk and his friends wanted to cut 80,000 employees from the Veterans Administration. But it's not just elections. It's important to understand, and I tell you this as a United States Senator, it's not just the power of money in buying elections. That's really bad. They're also involved in the legislative process every day with all of their lobbyists, etc. All right, this is how it works. Trump and the Republican leadership proposed this big, beautiful bill. This so-called big, beautiful bill is, in my view, the most horrific and destructive piece of legislation ever passed in the modern history of this country. What this legislation does, in short, in brief, is make massive cuts to Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, nutrition and education in order to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1%. And $900 billion to large, profitable corporations. Now, this is how money in politics works. If you think that many Republicans, especially those who represent low-income and working-class districts, didn't know what was in the bill, you would be mistaken. They knew what was in the bill. And one guy, I don't know if you know his name or not, a guy named Tom Tillis. He's a senator from North Carolina. Tillis is a conservative Republican guy, but he actually did something unusual. He read the bill. This guy reads the bill, and he says, holy moly, hundreds of thousands of people in North Carolina are going to lose their health insurance if I vote for this bill. So he gets up and he says, I cannot vote for this bill. It would be destructive for my constituents. You know what happened? Within minutes, Donald Trump was on social media ripping the hell out of this guy. Billionaires were announcing, you standing up to the president, you don't like the legislation we brought forth, you are out of here. We're going to run somebody against you. And they have the resources to do that. Within a very short time, Senator Tillis says, forget it, I'm not running for re-election. The point is that if people stand up for justice, stand up for what is right, they will be punished by big money interests. And that is a system that we can no longer tolerate, because day after day, Washington becomes further and further removed from the reality of the American working class. Now, as Delia and Robert told you, we are now living under the most dangerous president in perhaps the history of this country. This is a demagogue whose function in life is to serve the oligarchy and to try to divide us up. Now, when Trump was inaugurated, I had the unpleasure of being right in the front row. I somehow got shoved into the front row. Maybe nobody else wanted to go there, so they pushed me there. And I heard this horrific speech. But I want you all to remember, because this is the essence of what Trumpism is about. Seated right behind Donald Trump were the three wealthiest people in this country, Mr. Musk, Mr. Bezos, and Mr. Zuckerberg. Seated right behind them were 13 other billionaires who Trump had nominated to head up major federal agencies. And as I was listening to this rather horrific speech, I really did think. I was thinking about American history, and I was thinking about Abraham Lincoln at Gettysburg. And some of you will remember a few days after that terrible battle where thousands of Union soldiers died to end the abomination of slavery. President Lincoln goes to the battlefield. People just died a few days before. And he looks out at the assembled crowd, and in so many words, he says, you know, these guys did not die in vain. They died so that we will continue to have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And when I was listening to Trump and thinking about Abraham Lincoln, I was thinking that this guy is giving us a government of the billionaire class, by the billionaire class, and for the billionaire class. Now, I trust and I know that all of you understand how demagogues function. And Trump is not original. It goes on around the world and it's gone on historically. The way demagogues succeed is by dividing people up and by scapegoating powerless minorities. All right, that's how it's always been. It's been true in this country, it's true all over the world. Europe, it was Jews and gypsies. In this country, it was gay people, black people, Latino people. Today, it is trans people and the undocumented. So, that's the strategy. I mean, it's a well thought out strategy. So instead of addressing the serious crises facing the country and saying, all right, we got a crisis here, we got a crisis here, how do we work together to resolve those crises? What a demagogue like Trump does is say, forget about the healthcare crisis, forget about climate, forget about education, forget about housing. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how we hate this group of people and that group of people. And the antidote to that, which we must bring forth, we must create, is an understanding that if we do not all stand together, we're all going to go down together. And that's where we are now. So they want us to hate this group, and tomorrow it's another group, and tomorrow it's another group. So people in this country are hurting, and they want to understand what's going on. Why am I working longer hours for low wages? Why can't I afford health care? Why am I paying 50% of my income in housing? And Trump has an answer. It's the undocumented, it's trans people, it's whoever the next scapegoat is tomorrow. That's how demagogues function. And our job right now is to bring our people together around an agenda that says we're going to create an economy and a government that works for all of us, not just a few. We're not going to fall for your tricks anymore.
Nothing's going to happen yet, class.
All right. So let's talk about what the Democrats often don't talk about. And that is, what kind of agenda do we need to address the needs of a struggling working class? Now today, again, we don't talk about it much, but it is a sad reality. while the richest people in America have never ever had it so good, 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. You got it? Some of you are living paycheck to paycheck, yes?
I'll cover all this.
All right, I grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck. I know something about it. And what paycheck to paycheck is about is you wake up in the morning and you say, how am I going to get through the day, or how am I going to get through the week? How am I going to pay for the decent food I want to make sure my kids are able to eat? What happens if my landlord raises my rent by 20%? Where am I going to live? Can't afford rent right now. I'm going to have to take my kid out of school. What happens? What happens if my car breaks down and the mechanic tells me it's $1,000 to get it fixed? And what happens if I don't have that $1,000 and millions of people don't have that $1,000? Can't fix my car. If I can't fix my car, I can't get to work. If I can't get to work, I get fired. If I get fired, what happens to my family? What happens if my mom is sick and she can't afford the prescription drugs? Or my dad has to go into a nursing home? Or maybe I have to pay for childcare for my kid and I can't afford all these things. The result of all of that is that tens of millions of people in this country are living under incredible stress. And you know what stress does to the human mind and the human body? It kills us. That's exactly right. Now, one of the disgraceful things that we don't talk about much that's going on in America is, despite all of the money we spend on healthcare, I'm going to get to that in a second, despite all of the expenditures we have in healthcare, our life expectancy, how long we live, is 4 years shorter than people in other wealthy countries. Got it? But you know what's even worse, and it is never discussed? Working class people in America live lives that are 7 years shorter than wealthy people. Why is that? Tell me what. Give me an example of what I'm talking about. All right, raise your hand. Tell me what that is about. Yes. Stand up. Tell me more about it. What does that mean? All right. All right, you got cancer. The truth is, I did, yes, woman right here. All right, you can't go to the gym because it requires a subscription. You can't get healthy food. You can't go to the doctor when you should. If you have to live under those conditions, day after day, month after month, year after year, what the doctors tell you, there is an expression. It's called the physiology of poverty, physiology of stress. It impacts your heart. It results in a whole lot of diseases, which is why working class people die significantly younger than the rich. Not only is that not right, it is criminal. We deserve better. And one of the things that the system, in its broader sense, doesn't want us to ask is just that issue. Should being working class in America be a death sentence? No, it shouldn't. Should so many of our people have to struggle when you got a handful of people on top who have unbelievable wealth? That's right. Those are the issues that we have got to put on the table. God didn't create this stuff. This was created by people who are incredibly greedy. And let me tell you something, because I deal with these guys every day. Tell you a story, if I might. I'm on the Veterans Committee, and I take veterans issues very seriously. And I want to thank all the men and women here today who served our country, put their lives on the line. And I go around my own state very often, and I talk to veterans, and I say, look, Joe, did you happen to know that there are a whole lot of veterans programs that you are entitled to? And Joe will tell me, he says, yeah, Bernie, I know that. But you know what? there are other people who need it more than me. I cannot tell you how many times in Vermont, and I'm sure it's true all over the country. In other words, it happens not to be true. These programs are there for all people. But these guys worry that if they get the program, somebody else who's maybe worse off than they will not get it. In other words, there is a generosity of heart and spirit. They worry about other people. That's what being human is about.
Welcome to the human race. What song is that from?
But this sense of empathy, of worrying about other people, this truly does not exist among the oligarchs. All right? They are very religious people. You know what their religion is? It's greed. And they worship on the altar of money. And I don't understand this, because this is not an economic issue. This is rather a psychiatric issue. And now all of us know it's true. It's absolutely true. I mean, all of us know people who have addiction problems, whether it's drugs, it's alcohol, tobacco, whatever it may be. It's a serious problem in this country. These guys also have a serious addiction problem. No matter how much money they have, it is not enough. And if they have to step on you and you, if they have to destroy Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid to get another tax break, so you get a few $1 billion more, that is what they will do.
That's what they do.
They are very formidable people. They lack the empathy gene. They could care less about humanity. It's all for themselves. And they're becoming more and more ostentatious. They don't give a damn who knows about it. Bezos has a wedding in Venice, $50 million bucks. Zuckerberg decides to buy 11 houses in Palo Alto. Bezos owns 14 homes around. They really are not shy. They're not embarrassed about telling the world that they have it all. And we have got to change that culture in America. We've got to end the survival of the survival of the beast, all in it fighting amongst ourselves. And we have got to develop a society that works for all of us. So let me give you some examples of what I think we have got to do. What we have got to make clear, loudly and clearly, is that health care is a human right, not a privilege. We are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people. That has got to end. Anyone here think that that's a radical idea? Every other major country guarantees health care to all, and most of them spend half as much as we do per capita. We have got to cut the cost of prescription drugs in this country in half. Think that's a radical idea? We pay, in some cases, 10 times more than other countries for the same exact medicine. Now, here's another idea that is not radical. We live in a competitive global economy. And that means we need to have the best educated workforce in the world. Now, I hear many of my colleagues in Washington giving long speeches about how much they love America. Well, if you love America, you love the children in America. You don't have the highest rate of poverty of almost any major country on earth. You don't have a child care system which is dysfunctional. You pay your public school teachers a living wage. I want the best and the brightest to go into teaching. We should start off every teaching job in America at least $60,000 a year. Today, I had a meeting in Chicago with medical residents. Some of them graduated medical school $500,000 in debt. Nursing graduates, $100,000, $200,000 in debt. Ordinary kids going to a four-year school, $50,000, $80,000 in debt. We have got to make public colleges and universities tuition free and cancel all student debt. And again, I got to say this over and over again. I want you to think about it. This is the richest country on earth. Why should we have a dysfunctional child care system which costs parents far more than they can afford and yet pays child care teachers totally inadequate wages? Why is that? How is it that we can give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% but cannot have the best public school system in the world? That's not asking too much. And when we talk about where we are as a country, just talk to people the other day in Davenport. A young woman gets up and says, you know what? The likelihood is I am never going to own my own house. And the statistics are pretty clear. And again, try to understand, why is this? Why is it that the likelihood of a young person today owning a home is much less than his or her parents? We have a major housing crisis in America. In 2 weeks, there'll be a bill coming before the Senate, the Defense Appropriations Bill. It will ask people to vote for a $1 trillion military budget for a Pentagon that cannot pass an independent audit. It increases military spending by $150 billion. Well, I think instead of spending $1 trillion on the military, how about using that new $150 billion to build millions of low-income and affordable housing units in America? And when we talk about the needs of workers, right now in Washington, I'm embarrassed to tell you, but you already know it. The federal minimum wage has not been raised for a long, long time. It is a starvation wage of $7.25 an hour. I have the radical belief that if somebody works 40 hours a week, that person should not be living in poverty. Radical idea. We got to raise the minimum wage to a living wage of at least $17 an hour. There are millions of workers who want to join unions. If we're going to rebuild the middle class in this country, we need to rebuild the trade union movement. We need to make it easier for workers to be in unions, not harder. And that's why we've got to pass the PRO Act. We are one of a few countries around the world that doesn't guarantee paid family and medical leave. Again, you're living in the richest country on earth. Moms and dads should not have to make the choice about whether they stay home with a sick kid or they get fired if they don't go to work. not a choice that should have to be made in the United States of America. Let's pass paid family and medical leave. Twenty-two percent of senior citizens in America, again, in the richest country on earth, are trying to survive on $15,000 a year or less.
Oh, God.
Can you imagine anybody trying to get by on $15,000 a year or less? 22% of seniors.
23,000 in
Half of
1990.
seniors are trying to get by on $30,000 or
Barely
less.
enough for me.
And then
to
you got Republicans out there saying, well, let's cut Social Security. I have a slightly different idea. And that is, instead of cutting Social Security, we should expand Social Security benefits. And extend the solvency of Social Security so we know that it's there for our kids and our grandchildren. And you know how you do it? That's right. That's exactly right. Right now, we have the absurd situation. One person makes $10 million a year, one person makes $186,000. They both contribute the same amount into Social Security. Lift the cap, we can significantly expand Social Security benefits and the solvency of the Social Security Trust Fund. And let me remind the young people who are here that there was once a time, not so many years ago, when workers who work for large companies had defined benefit pension plans, just like we have in Congress. Good idea. And what it means is that if you work for a company or for several companies, when you retire, you are guaranteed a certain pension every single month. I think that's a good idea, and I think we should bring it back. All right. To summarize, we are living in a system today. People on top never had it so good. But for working people, the system is broken. The economic system is broken, 60% living paycheck to paycheck. Healthcare system is broken, 85 million uninsured or underinsured, and that will be made much worse as a result of Trump's legislation. Education system largely broken, childcare dysfunctional, higher education too expensive, trade schools not available for working class kids when they need it. In other words, when you talk about the basic necessities of life, health, education, housing, the system is broken. And our job right now is to tell the oligarchs on top, their day has come and gone. We're going to reclaim this nation.
I hope so.
And nothing that I am saying, I want to pound this away. You know, I've been called the communist and everything else. Nothing that I am telling you is not supported by a strong majority of Americans. They know the system is broken. They know it is rigged for the rich. They know the political system is owned by the oligarchs. But not only, brothers and sisters, do we need to change our domestic policies. We need fundamental changes in our foreign policies. We must not give another nickel to Netanyahu and the Israeli government to starve the children of Gaza. I've gone all over this country. I've been all over this country, and I've talked to Democrats and progressives, I've talked to conservatives, Republicans, independents. The overwhelming majority of the American people do not believe that we should spend billions of U.S. taxpayer dollars to starve children in Gaza. And this is an issue, and I want you to know this is an issue not only addressing the horrific situation which exists today, but how do you think the United States of America is going to have an ounce of credibility in condemning human rights abuses any place in the world? China does something, they're going to laugh in your face and say, you tell us about what we're doing, you supported the murder of the children in Gaza. Russia, the same thing. Russia's bombing Ukrainian cities. How do we go around condemning that when they're going to throw what's going on in Gaza in our face? So we got a supposed tough guy as president, right? Oh, he's a tough guy. He takes on the poor and the weak. Hey, Mr. President, if you're so tough, take on Netanyahu. Stop funding this war. So brothers and sisters, this is a tough time, no ifs, buts, and maybes. This is a difficult time for our country. But this is not the only difficult time that we have had. Don't let people tell you that we can't win this thing. You know, people throughout our history have had to stand up and struggle for justice. Workers stood up and struggled to achieve union victories and a decent standard of living for us. Women stood up and struggled for the right to vote and to end sexism in America. African Americans stood up to end segregation and racism. The gay community stood up to end bigotry against the gay community. So our job now is every single day to stand up and fight against Trump's authoritarianism, his attacks on the working class. But it is also to hold out in our hearts and in our minds a vision of where this country should go. Wouldn't it be extraordinary if the whole world looked at America and said, wow, we want to emulate that great healthcare system you have. How'd you do it? That great educational system. How do you have affordable housing for all of your people? How do you have the best child care system in the world so that your kids are flourishing? That's the America we want. Now, I'm not going to kid you. These oligarchs are enormously powerful. They have unlimited, underlined, unlimited amounts of money. They own the media. They control the economy. They have huge influence in both political parties. That is the truth. But here is another truth, more powerful than that. And that is, I am not a mathematician, don't have a PhD in mathematics. Kind of failed it when I was in college. But this I do know, that at the end of the day, 99% is a hell of a lot bigger number than 1%. So brothers and sisters, this fight is not only for us, it's for our kids, it's for the entire planet in terms of climate change, it's for democracy around the world. As goes America, so goes the world. There's a lot of responsibility on each and every person's shoulders in this room. We got to think out of the box. We got to go outside of our comfort zones. We got to stand up and fight and create the America we deserve. Thank you all very much.
right, Bernie, bringing the fire as always. I mean, I love his message, but there's some big changes that have to happen, and I don't know how quickly they can change or if it's too late. Anyway, thanks for sticking with me, Gloria, even though you couldn't understand anything I was saying. Thanks to TV2 for letting me pirate his stream. I could have picked it up somewhere, but felt like pirating TV2 for the hell of it. So I did a Canadian drain last night, and then I woke up today and saw that Carney's in Ukraine for their, what is it? I forget what year, how many years of Ukrainian independence. He wasn't expected there. It was a surprise, but he was going over to Europe anyway, and he's going to meet with the German chancellor, and possibly we're going to talk about arms deals. So my next Canadian drain, I'll probably be talking a lot about that kind of thing. Because I still don't trust what's going on with Putin in Alaska. And those ships going to Venezuela and all kinds of stuff to talk about. So anyhow, I'm going to head out. Thank you again, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.